Today we're talking about the Euros. Yes, that's right, England, Germany, Portugal, and others. There are other teams. Well, I'm joined by Jon Mackenzie and JJ Bull to discuss those teams and to answer the question, who's actually going to win the Euros? Well, JJ Bull, let us begin with some of the favourites, por favor.
Yes, there are 5 favourites. There is one clear favourite, according to the bookies. But according to me, I think one of the big favourites, or the favourite, is France. La France. And this is probably what they'll look like. There's a few reasons that I think they're one of the best teams. First of all, they have amazing individual players. Mbappe, Griezmann, Real Madrid's midfield. You've got Tchouaméni's over here on the bench. They also, you may remember, were in the World Cup final quite recently, losing to Lionel Messi's Argentina. So they've got experience of that. Deschamps has been in charge of them for a long time. It's a good group of players, and they play well as a team. And that is key for me, actually, because one of the things that France do very well
That's key, is it?
Yeah,
Playing
key.
well as a team.
I think it helps.
I think so too.
In a team sport.
I definitely agree.
In this team sport of football, oftentimes the best way to win a tournament is to make sure you don't leave yourself at risk of any counterattacks going against you. In France, despite having all this attacking talent, play quite defensively and risk averse. I wouldn't say pragmatic, it's more just they are defensive because when they are able to draw teams out, they then have players like Mbappe and Griezmann and people like that who can run in behind and cause loads of damage to opposition. They also have Olivier Giroud, who is their country's all-time top scorer. He can just score goals of poaching if they manage to get into the final third. So when they do build up and get it into the final third, they're quite patient, methodical, and they just have excellent players around here. I think this is probably what it'll look like. You've got N'Golo Kante's coming back into the team, so he might come in here. It might be Tchouaméni, who has been struggling with injury. Jules Koundé will probably come in at this, and you get Theo Hernandez on the outside. But that's probably what you'll get. Very defined system, team that works very hard, in and out of possession, and have excellent players. So they should be one of the absolute favourites.
And lovely colours as well. I always like the French kits.
It's very nice. Yeah. Les Bleus.
Les Bleus.
Yes. Now, the next team I've got in this list of favourites is Portugal, who I'm sure you will agree have some of the best, well, they probably have the most individually great players in the tournament. Every single player they have is amazing. I cannot pick who will be in this team.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Oftentimes you'll have Fernandes plays inside, Bernardo Silva's outside, or they'll swap around. You've got Paulinho here, you've got Vitinha might play. Cancelo might start, it might be Nelson Semedo who starts, who's often there. Nuno Mendes might not play, it might be Diego Dallo who plays in there.
It's worth saying as well for people who don't watch Serie A,
Yes.
Rafa Leão is probably one of the best players in the world, right?
Oh yeah, you've watched a lot of Rafa Leão.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really exciting player to watch, like one of the best dribblers in the world. You'll see him in this tournament often going down the outside and playing cutbacks. I watched the game recently, they played against Croatia in the warm-ups, and he did a lot of that. He stands up fullbacks and just has the standing start step to just get around them, get to the byline and play these crosses back across to all of these players who can score.
Yeah, and he often starts wide, but he also comes through the middle sometimes because, like I was saying, you don't know who's going to play in this team. Roberto Martinez is the manager, he changes it all the time. Sometimes you'll have a midfield diamond, sometimes you'll have, then you'll have 2 strikers up top, maybe Gonçalo Ramos will come in next to Cristiano Ronaldo. But it's very hard to predict who will actually start in this team because it does change quite a lot. There's no defined style. Sometimes they play over the top to run in behind. Sometimes they build patiently. So that could either be a massive benefit for them. It could also be maybe you want to have a clear identity. But one thing you do definitely get with Portugal is lots of goals. Because if you look at my lovely little graph here.
That is a lovely graph.
Yeah. Yes, it is a lovely graph. But you'll notice the XG here in qualifying. Portugal were, by quite some distance, the most prolific creators of chances in qualifying here. And you can see like lots of goals, they score above their XG, they have great individual players who perform quite well. They also have Cristiano Ronaldo.
Well, and this is a point I wanted to raise with you, Jon, because I know personally you feel perhaps the team would be better without Ronaldo.
Yeah, there's arguments to be made that that's the case. In the warm-up games, they've had some games where they played with him, some games where they played without him, and they lost against Slovenia with him playing, and then they beat, I think, Sweden 5-2 without him playing. So there's arguments to be made that he actually impacts the balance of the team in terms of, particularly when they're pressing forward, he's not going to offer a huge amount out of possession. So how is that going to impact the way that teams are going to be able to control games against you? So there's definitely a question of whether or not this is the tournament where we see maybe Ronaldo slowly phased out, or whether or not they feel the need to play him in every game. He is obviously I think, is he the top international scorer of all time?
Yeah,
for any team. So obviously with that in mind, it's hard to not field him. But yeah, this is a team where Roberto Martinez takes a talented group of a golden generation of players, as it were, to an international tournament. We all know how that ends, right? So my worry with this team is that they've got all of the players.
Cynic.
They've got all of the players in the world to be able to do really fun things in possession. Out of possession, I think they're a little bit more open. So again, the game against Croatia the weekend just gone, in the first half there was about 4 instances of them getting overloaded in defensive transition, where the opponent had 4 players, they had 3. If you do that a lot, you're going to concede goals. So they are going to generate a lot of chances.
Yeah.
They're probably going to concede a lot of chances as well.
It's like a strength and a weakness being really adaptable, because there's no defined style again. It's not necessary to have one, but I think it definitely does help you, and exactly what John's saying about out of possession. But there's another thing looking at it, like Ronaldo is still one of the best penalty box poachers of all time. I mean, he's the top scorer in the Saudi League this season, wherever you think of the standard there. He will get chances and he'll score, and often what you need in international games is to just not concede and score one. And if you need one person to try and be there to finish off a move, Ronaldo will probably be there. But you go from having this Portugal team, great individuals, and no defined style of play, and goes into one of the other favourites, who are Spain.
Spain,
yes. So Spain play a version of a 4-3-3.
Mainly on the plane, sorry.
Yes, they're all on the plane to Germany.
Yeah.
Or maybe
That's true, they are.
Maybe they took a train.
I wonder.
Which also rhymes.
Yeah.
You didn't even pick up on that, did you?
No, I didn't know. Yeah.
Mainly the plane, though, I'm pretty sure.
Probably a plane.
Yeah. Or perhaps a crane. Spain play a version of a 4-3-3. They've got Rodri, one of the best midfielders in the world, one of the best players in the world, and Pedri, my favourite boy.
Yeah. Who's already played as many minutes as most 36-year-olds.
He's played too many. It's one of the reasons that Pau Cubarsí is not in the Spain squad. A young Barcelona defender coming through, because they want to play him in the Olympics.
Yeah. And
he might not start every single game. So rather than burning out Cubarsí and just destroying him as a player, like has happened to Pedri.
Yeah.
Although he seems to be back and fit, and he scored in the recent friendly, so hopefully he's back.
And he's already spoiled, so he might as well carry on.
Exactly, yes. So there we go. But these are really good players, as you can see. It's a good, strong team. Spain have a clear style. So they're managed by Luis de la Fuente, who's managed at youth level with Spanish teams, so the 17s, I think, the 19s and 23s. I might be wrong with those.
He's sort of the Gareth Southgate of Spain.
Yes. That is kind of what's happened with them, actually. So what you have here is slightly different to what you had with Luis Enrique. They still have loads and loads of possession. They keep the ball an awful lot. As you'd imagine from a Spain team, stereotypically, they keep the ball quite a lot and pass it around small passes. But when you do things like that at international level, what often happens is that you push loads of players forward and you're susceptible to counterattacks. Like the opposite of what France do. This Spain team is slightly different in that they get the ball to these young wingers. So they've got Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal, 2 excellent young wingers. Yamal's more of an inside winger. I guess Williams can do both as well, John. You can play inside and outside, right? But these guys are really direct, so they're nice and patient till they get to these guys who then come to life, and then you get the ball into the box for someone like Alvaro Morata, who's now the captain of Spain, or a runner into the box. So you might have Pedri, you might have Dani Olmo, you might have Oyarzabal, something like that in this team here.
I think Spain are interesting because in the last tournament they played just really sort of turgid, very positional football that we expect from Luis Enrique. This team is going to be much more direct.
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, off the back of their last tournament, people may be thinking, well, it's Spain, they're going to play patient, boring football, and it won't be very entertaining. But I think there's a lot more direction in this team, and so as a result, it probably sets them up better for the tournament anyway, but I think people might be a little bit surprised by how good Spain are. I mean, we are talking about them as favourites, but I think a lot of people aren't really thinking of them as being like
I wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't, but they could win it.
Yeah, they definitely could. They've got a really good team. Like they're definitely one of the favourites. One of my favourite teams are in there as well. The other favourite team I've got down here, there's one more that we're going to talk about after, and you probably know who they are. This team is Germany, who are the hosts. Germany. So naturally, they are going to be one of the favourites because that's just always the thing. Being the host country always helps you.
Plus, they're good.
Not always. They are. Well, they're really good. Yeah. So like Germany are really good. Now, they play very narrow, so they've got like Florian Wirtz and Musiala are 2 of the best young players in the whole tournament. Gundogan, steady old Gundogan, the box crasher, and he'll get in amongst it with Havertz as well. But these guys are all very, very narrow. They play like this. But when you get them combining with the little 1-2s in the area, they're really clever players. It's really fun to watch. They will do damage to anyone they play against. Yeah. Decent centre-backs as well, but one thing I would say is that although Toni Kroos is obviously amazing, you might get Mittelstadt going inside or outside, there's not a lot for me of like speed or real like dynamism and power in the midfield. I'm not sure if it'll be Andrich. You think it's Andrich, don't you?
I think he just gives a bit more defensive, solidity in the middle.
He's previously a centre-back, wasn't he? And he's moved in.
Yeah, and what we're going to see from Kroos is he, as we see him for Real Madrid, drops into the full-back area or maybe drops in between the lines. That gives licence for these 2 fullbacks to get a little bit further forward, which then allows to overload in the centre, which is something we see from Julian Nagelsmann teams as well. And I think Julian Nagelsmann for me is like the super strength of this team, because he is an excellent manager. And I think what we've seen from him during his time in the German national team is getting the balance right between making sure that you're giving the players enough freedom to be able to express themselves, but also implementing tactical ideas that will allow them to get the most out of them as well. So they recently were 1-0 down against Greece in the last warm-up friendly before we're recording this. And he made some changes at half-time, which then changed the course of the game a little bit. And I think this is, again, people may be sleeping on Germany a little bit, because if you look at this squad, there's not a huge amount of like really standout players in there, particularly across the back line. But I think what you get from Germany with this squad is like lots of balance and flexibility. They can do different things. So if you don't play Kroos in the midfield, maybe you're playing against a team where you feel like you don't need to have one of your midfielders dropping in. You can play someone like Nico Schlotterbeck, who can do a lot of the stuff that Kroos does, but from the back line as well. You've got plenty of different options here where you can go with more attacking variations, or you can go with more defensive variations, and they have a manager who's able to make those sorts of calls as well. So I think that despite the fact on paper maybe not the most exciting squad, I think that there is the balance there and the manager there to maybe get a little bit more out of these players.
It sounds like you think they might win.
I think they'll go deep. I think they'll go deeper than we expect them to.
Okay.
But yeah, again, this is international football, so all it takes is one game where another team goes brrr, and then you're out.
He loves to do that.
He does like to
Burr indeed, John. Yes. Now, before we discuss England, let's head out and chat to Reuben Pinder, who spoke to a number of German fans.
We're outside Wembley ahead of the Champions League final, but we're looking ahead to the Euros, asking Borussia Dortmund fans for their England and Germany combined 11s. Manuel Neuer or Jordan Pickford?
Of course, Neuer.
Obviously Neuer.
Of course, Manuel Neuer.
Manuel Neuer.
Oh, it's Neuer, of course.
This was the easy one, come on. Manuel Neuer.
Joshua Kimmich or Kyle Walker?
Kyle Walker.
Right defender, Kyle Walker.
I think Joshua Kimmich.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker.
Tough call. I would say Kimmich.
Kimmich.
Kyle Walker.
Antonio Rudiger or John Stones?
Oh, Rüdiger.
Rüdiger safe, Rüdiger safe.
Rüdiger.
Rüdiger.
John Stones.
Rüdiger.
Jonathan Tah or Harry Maguire?
Oh, that's a tough one because they're both rubbish.
Jonathan Tah. Harry Maguire is on fire.
We fancy Harry Maguire.
Yes. Yeah.
Harry Maguire. Maguire.
Maguire.
He's a legend. He's a legend.
Mittelstadt or Luke Shaw?
Mittelstadt.
Luke Shaw. Yes.
Luke Shaw.
Mittelstadt. Luke Shaw.
Robert Andrich or Declan Rice?
Declan Rice.
Declan Rice.
Declan Rice.
Declan Rice. Andrick is a legend for Leverkusen, but Declan Rice.
Andrich.
Really? Come on.
Oh,
Andrich.
Yeah?
I'm German, so actually Andrich, but I like Rice very much.
Tony Kroos or Kobe Mainoo?
Toni Kroos.
Do you let me finish?
No.
Tony Kroos or Kobe Mainoo?
Tony Kroos.
Toni Kroos. Hey, come on.
Jude Bellingham or Ilkay Gundogan?
Bellingham.
Jude Bellingham.
Jude Bellingham.
110% Jude Bellingham.
I would take Bellingham. It's the captain, right? So Ilkay Gundogan.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, Ilkay. He's so great.
Florian Wirtz or Bukayo Saka?
Bukayo Saka.
Florian Wirtz.
Kayo Saka is good, but Wirtz is better.
Bukayo Saka.
Florian Wirtz. Florian Wirtz.
Wirtz.
Florian Wirtz.
Phil Foden or Jamal Musiala?
Musiala.
Jamal Musiala.
No, Phil Foden.
Phil Foden is a little bit more than Musiala.
Phil Foden, wonderful player.
I go for Foden because I really like the way he's dribbling and going on the pitch. So I go for Foden.
Can I say a draw?
No, you have to pick one.
Okay. Musiala.
Kai Havertz or Harry Kane?
Havertz.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Harry Kane is a good player, yeah. But I think he's overrated.
Harry Kane.
No, it's Havertz.
Come on.
No, come on.
Harry Kane.
Harry Kane.
I guess Kane.
Kane.
I shouldn't take that long to think of the answer.
Well, there you go. Very, very complimentary from the delightful German fans. Borussia Dortmund fans largely enjoying enjoying before the Champions League final. I'm sure enjoying it afterwards as well. John, to England now. Probably one of the best teams we've ever seen in all of football ever.
It's certainly up there, yes.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
international football, this is a very talented squad. I think England are really interesting because they follow the French blueprint that JJ was talking about before, which is playing not pragmatic football necessarily, but a little bit more risk-averse football. Because I think the tactical logic is that if you have really outstanding attacking players, you don't need to commit as many players forward in order to score goals. You can rely on players like Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden as well. These are really top-level attacking players. You can be a little bit more careful in possession.
It's worth saying as well, like this is the same approach that Gareth Southgate's England have taken over the last couple of tournaments, and in terms of going deep, it has worked for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the way to go, and the logic being that if you have really elite attacking players, you don't need to commit as many forward in order to score goals. So you have an advantage over other teams. And that's why I think England have got this reputation for playing more stodgy football. But as you say, they've gone further than they've gone in more recent tournaments before Southgate. So that's the approach. And I think it's going to take England deep. They have to be around the favourites, and the bookies do have them as favourites. I've just got 5 question marks around England going into this tournament. Now, these question marks aren't necessarily bad things, just aspects of this England squad that we will see answered during the course of the tournament.
You're caveating that before I dive over the desk.
Yeah, exactly. Please don't hurt me. So let's start off by just having a look at the makeup of the squad in particular. So the first thing I want to say is this is a very young squad. It's the 3rd youngest squad at the tournament. And if we look at some of the players, we've got the games that they've played here. Yes, there are some players like John Stones, Kyle Walker as well, with lots of appearances for England, and Kane obviously has the most over here. But actually, if you go down the list of games, you can see there's a lot of players here who have played less than double-digit games. So very young squad, very inexperienced squad. So we will see how that works in the course of the tournament. Will it be good? They've got lots of young talent coming through, lots of exciting talent, but do they lack maybe some of the experience in order to help them really go deep in that part of the...
They don't know to be afraid would be the good thing, right?
Yeah, it could go either way. The other thing to say on this is in terms of goals scored as well, because there's a question I think that has to be asked. We know that Harry Kane scores a ton of goals, 63 goals, so you're talking about 2 goals every 3 games for Kane, or 2 goals every 3 appearances. Outside of that, you've got Saka, 33 games, 11 goals. So a goal in every 3 appearances for him. Beyond that, we've not got anyone with more than 4 goals in this squad so far. So obviously that's because, as we said, it's a very young, inexperienced team. There are players in here who can get goals, but this is a team that have in the past relied on Harry Kane for goals. So questions to be raised at least about whether or not, if Kane doesn't perform well in this tournament, there's no saying that he won't, he's had a really good season for Bayern Munich, then will England struggle as a result of that? So that's the forward areas, very good, but maybe a little bit of lack of experience there. I think the bigger questions in terms of maybe negative aspects are going to be asked about the deeper parts of the field here. So
let me preempt this. One fullback, let me preempt this. One left back, and he's injured.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of things here. Firstly, as you mentioned, Shaw is the only designated left back in this squad. Obviously, there's going to be solutions to that elsewhere, but Shaw is currently injured, and it's not believed to be back before, I think, the final game of the group stages. So it seems as though what's being done here is a bit of a gamble on the part of Southgate that England will get through the group stages no problem, and then they'll be able to bring Shaw back in. Shaw's been injured for a while, hasn't played much this season, so you're again making the gamble that he's going to just jump straight in at tournament level, and that's going to be fine. Trippier's been played in some of the warm-up games. We've seen Gomez there as well, and he plays there for Liverpool also, and we've seen Konsa playing across there as well. I think that has a bit of an impact on England in terms of what they're trying to do in possession, because as we've said, they are quite a sort of patient team. When they're building up, they're looking to force the opposition back, create a low block to then break down, and having a wrong-footed fullback who is being played as a sort of traditional fullback. So we're not going to see Trippier coming inside. He is going to be operating in the wide channels. You're coming up against a low block, and part of the problem is that when you're coming up against a low block, you want to make sure that you can get in behind as quickly as possible to pull that block apart or get there before the block even forms. Trippier isn't going to be able to run into the channel and first time cross into the box. What he often does is takes a touch, cuts back inside onto obviously a very good right foot, but then that gives teams the opportunity to then structure their block much better. And having the threat of being able to do that have an overlapping fullback means that teams have to defend the overlap, which again pulls the block apart, creates more space in the middle that can then get broken down. Without that kind of player there, and we'll be seeing that with if they play Joe Gomez or Konsa, you're making the opposition's job a little bit easier in defence, which is why someone like Luke Shaw will make things a lot more dangerous.
So it can work, but it's not ideal.
Yeah, obviously there's an outside chance that you could see someone like Bukayo Saka playing as a left back.
The only 2 goal scorers.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I mean, I guess the argument would be
Wing-back,
there are plenty. He's done this before, and there is plenty of attacking talent in this team. So if you're only doing it for the first couple of games until Shaw comes back, then it's a possibility. But yeah, whether or not you want to do that with one of your better attacking players is another question. The other question mark with the back line is the centre-back situation as well. So you've got John Stones, who we saw has a ton of caps for England. John Stones, however, came off in one of the warm-up games with a bit of an ankle problem, is been very injury-prone this season, and is probably not the most reliable from a fitness point of view. So you've got that, and then you have 3 relatively unproven, untested centre-backs as well. So we've lost Harry Maguire from this set as well. So because of injury, so you've lost one of the regular England players as well from previous tournaments. So question marks about whether or not this back line is going to be as solid as maybe you might expect. And then the final question mark is just in terms of who is going to partner Rice. So this is a little bit more of a positive question mark, because we've got 4 players here who are very different profiles of players, who any of whom could play next to Rice, and gives England a bit of flexibility in terms of what they would look like. So Conor Gallagher, who we've seen him playing a little bit deeper this season for Chelsea, but can play further forward as well. So maybe if you're playing in a game where you might want to get a little bit more attacking upside, you can just play Rice on his own, push Gallagher up alongside Bellingham. And then Alexander-Arnold, same sort of thing, where you probably don't want to rely on him defensively in games where you might get cut through the middle, but in games against teams where you're largely going to be trying to break down a low block or try and get in behind that block before it's formed, Alexander-Arnold is a bit of a cheat code here. There's always been a reason why Southgate has been a bit reticent to play Alexander-Arnold, and that is how do you deal with him out of possession? As we know, Liverpool play him as a fullback in those moments to sort of move him out in the middle and make sure they've got more coverage there, and the same applies for England as well. And then we have these 2 fun young players coming through. So Kobbie Mainoo at Manchester United, who's had a really good season for them. Again, Mainoo's probably a better played slightly further forward, but a really press-resistant midfielder. So a sort of profile that we've not seen the England squad have for a while. So it could be nice for them to have a bit more control in the middle with him. And then Adam Wharton, who's probably I would say the best defensive midfield profile, a bit below the age of 21. I don't know how old he is.
In the world?
In the world. One of them, yeah, I would say so.
And he's big heaps of praise.
Yeah, he's obviously moved to Crystal Palace in the January just gone, has really impressed, got his first England cap recently against Bosnia and made 36 out of 36 passes, something. Offers something, again, that these profiles don't really offer, with maybe the exception of Alexander-Arnold, but like a really good tempo-setting midfielder who can play progressive passes into the block, which will make England have often been sort of characterised as this team who horseshoes around.
Yeah. Is he our very own Rodri? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, without the sort of physical profile of Rodri, I'd say, but he still reads the game very, very well defensively. So I think we'll see him sitting in the base of midfields in his career, and he's an exciting one. But maybe not for this tournament, but there's the option there as well. But this is a nice question mark because, as I say, these are all different profiles. It will allow Southgate to have a little bit of flexibility as well. And I think the way that he answers the question of who is going to play alongside Rice will determine how the tournament goes for them. But yeah, England deserve to be favourites in my book. Question marks about the defensive aspects, but in terms of going forward, just a team where you have so much depth across the board, lots of exciting young talent, and it'll be fun to watch England play this tournament.
JJ Bull, England deserve to be favourites.
What?
Just saying you made France your favourites, but I'm just curious as to what your problem is.
Oh, well, England have great individual players, but as we've seen in recent tournaments, their chance creation tends to come mostly from set pieces and penalties. So it's good they've got Kieran Trippier because he's one of their best set piece players. That's probably why he's there. If Alexander-Arnold isn't on the pitch, then you've got someone else who can hit both right-footed, free kicks and corners. And then the other free kick taker is probably Phil Foden, right? The left-footed. So these will be their key chance creators, I would have thought. I'd like to see Eze. I like him. They've got a good team.
Okay, well that's England then, eventual winners of Euro 2024. Best of the rest. Who's going to come second to England? That's the real question here, John. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a few different suggestions you can pick of teams that we haven't talked about. Most of them being big teams that have maybe not been as good recently. So we've got Italy and Croatia. I mean, Croatia always go deep in these tournaments and they always seem to come in unfavoured. But they've just beaten Portugal, who we've had as one of the favourites. So you have to have them there and thereabouts. Italy maybe lost the sort of profile of player that they've had in the past, but they've got Spalletti as the coach, who's recently won Serie A with Napoli, so a very good coach there as well. Other teams, I guess Netherlands for me, again a great squad, maybe let down by having Koeman as the manager, and there's been questions raised about his management of previous tournaments. But then for me, I think the one that I would have as the outsiders that could jump into that group is Belgium. I think Belgium are interesting because we've just gone through like 10 years of Belgium having a golden generation of players, and everyone was like, Belgium this is going to be the tournament where they go really deep, maybe win.
Everyone was like that.
And they never did it.
No.
Now they've got rid of most of that group of golden generation, but they've got some of the key players in that. So Lukaku still plays up front, Kevin De Bruyne is still there in midfield, Jan Vertonghen is still in defence, believe it or not. I'm not sure how much game time he'll get.
Or how old he even is.
Yeah, no one knows.
knows.
No, it's not even on Wikipedia. I don't think Wikipedia was made when he was born. Yeah, that's actually true of a lot of players, isn't it? It's
true,
not really that surprising.
No,
But
it's not.
For me, Belgium, what's great about them is they brought in Domenico Tedesco, who's a great coach, particularly out of possession, I think.
Yeah.
He'll give them a really good foundation to work from, to build on and get goals. And then they've got some really fun attacking players as well. So Jeremy Doku, Johan Bakayoko, players like that coming through. Artem Vermeeren, a centre midfielder who's at Atletico Madrid, who sort of had a bit of an under-the-radar move there. He's only 19 years old. They've got some really fun players who can come through as well. So I think what's going to happen is people will think, oh, this isn't the golden generation anymore. This isn't a great team.
Yeah.
But actually the coach will give them a bit more of a foundation to do well in international football. They've still got some great players to be able to benefit from that, and people will be pleasantly surprised by them.
A golden generation, he says, of Belgium, JJ. Who else? Who do you like?
I like the teams that John has just said.
Yeah.
As you saw from my graphic earlier, Switzerland create an awful lot of XG. They don't really have the forwards to finish off the chances,
Sure.
but strong midfield and Granit Xhaka, so
Yeah.
that kind of helps you. And Manuel Akanji, who's done very well. I also think Ukraine will be better than I certainly thought before I started looking into research for this video, in that they have fast wingers. Well, Mudrik's very fast, and then Sigalkov, how you say his name, on the right is a good player for Girona. They also had the Liga's top scorer up top. And they have sort of a half-decent rest of the team, so they can sit and be relatively controlled and pragmatic in games, and then just utilise having those three players up top. It's going to be really useful.
And Zinchenko, of course.
Zinchenko, of course, as well. And the things like outside of football will probably be relevant in bringing a team together, because those players are not just representing their country for football, they're basically ambassadors for everything that they're doing, because obviously there's a war. So I think that you can't measure how much that difference will make, whether it adds pressure to them, or whether it helps galvanise them and come together. You might see that. But just in footballing terms, I think of all the teams I've looked through, they're all right, actually, Ukraine.
Okay, fine. Well, next up is the quick fire round section. And I stress, John, it's quick. It's called the quick fire round.
Not going to be quick, Joe.
Yes, it is going to be. No, it is going to be quick. Now, there's a few different categories for the quick fire round where we're going to get just ever so quick answers from John and from JJ. And the first one I'm going to come to now is the most straightforward, the golden ball winner. The golden ball winner, not the boot winner.
Can I just clarify something?
What do you want to clarify?
When we say the golden ball winner, are we guessing?
This is already taking a long time.
Are we guessing who is going to be nominated by UEFA as the golden ball winner?
Yeah.
Or are we saying who we think is going to be the best player in the tournament?
You, as an analyst, are predicting who. I don't care. Answer it whichever way you want. Who's going to be the best player at the tournament?
Well, I think the best player of the tournament is going to be nominated as the person who is the best player for the team who wins. So you have to kind of think about who you think is going to win. So, yeah, I don't know. If England win, it's going to be, I don't know, Harry Kane.
Harry Kane, what a great, terrific, such a fast answer. Very fast. Well done. Well done. JJ, what do you think?
Mbappe,
look at that. Now there's an example to follow, huh?
Yeah,
he just said a name off the bat. Did it make any sense? It doesn't matter, because it's the quick fire round. Now, coming up next, quick fire, it's the best young player. All the same things that you just thought about, all swirling around, but on a young.
Yeah. So if you think it's going to be England
Yeah.
who win the tournament,
Yeah.
it's going to be Phil Foden.
Phil Foden, that's a good answer. What do you think, JJ?
Lamine Yamal, because he's not turning 17 until the day before the final.
Oh, good lord.
Yeah,
really?
it's crazy, yeah.
16 years old.
He's already contributing goals and assists at Spain. He won them a penalty against, I think it was Brazil he's playing against the other day. He is a really genuinely good player, and he's so quick.
I always think it's incredible when you see players that young, because not only are they adult professional footballers, but I don't know how they fit in their paper round.
He's exactly like that is a lot of papers he's got to deliver and then deliver on the pitch. Like he's so young, it's that he's a child basically.
He is
playing
a child.
the emotional maturity to be able to play at that level and be able to handle the pressure. This is amazing.
I do think that this is going to be a tournament of young players. There's so many young players across the board, which are exciting across Europe. So
Pedri.
Yeah, I think given that there's so many games now that teams are forced to play their younger players, which means that we've seen a little bit of an accelerated development from young players. So I'm looking forward to watching some of the young players.
Best game?
For me, this comes down to like what you think is the best group because it's got the best teams in. I think most people would say Group B, so it's Spain, Croatia, Italy, and Albania in that group. Group D also an outside chance with Poland, Netherlands, Austria, and France.
It's a pretty tough group.
Yeah, but I think the people will probably get hyped about the Spain-Italy game. I actually think this Spain-Croatia game might be more fun, so I'll go with that.
Okay, what do you think, JJ?
I'm very excited for Germany versus Scotland, the first game, because there is hope before the tournament begins.
And none after. Now, the team that no one is talking about except for John category, that John insisted that we include. Quick fire round.
This is just to explain what this category is.
Oh yeah, of course, there's loads of time for explanations
cool,
in the quick fire round.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is just for me, like if you're looking for a fun team, they're not going to win necessarily or do well, but if you're looking for a fun team to follow, I've got just 3 candidates. We've got Hungary.
3 in the quick
Hungary
fire round.
have got like quite a fun team. They've got Soboslai, etc. But they're playing a really interesting football, which is based around like overloading players in build-up, doing what people have called relationism, and the debates are about. So they'll be doing that. Austria, I think, are fun because they've got Ralf Rangnick, and they've got a ton of players who've come through the Red Bull system. So they're going to be playing Red Bull, pressing, exciting football, and they're doing really well in the qualifying. So I think they might do quite well in this tournament as well. So one to look out for. And then an outside team, Albania. I'm going with Albania because they're in the group of death.
Yeah.
But they've got Silvino as a manager, and his out of possession. I've watched a few of their games now, and it really impressed me the out of possession stuff they're doing. So they're an out of possession first team. They can sit in a mid block, sit deep, absorb pressure, and then attack in transition. So I think that they're going to cause a few of the teams in that group of death to sweat. So I think their games in Group B could be quite fun, even though I don't think they'll eventually get out of it.
Quick fire. And what about top goal scorer, Golden Boot, JJ?
Mbappe.
Kane.
Well, you got a quick fire by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can expand on why I chose Kane if you want.
No, we can't do that, John. There's no time. Simply because we must answer the imperative question. The title. Who will actually win the Euros, JJ Bull?
Mbappe, France.
I think before I did research...
No, go on, say
I would have said England.
Oh, wait, before you did research?
Yeah.
Who do you think now?
I think there are question marks about England.
Yeah, I know you listed them at length in this episode,
and
I haven't forgiven you already.
I think that it could be Germany, but I do think England are neck and neck with them.
Let me just add one to you. Or Portugal.
Yeah.
Or Spain.
He's saying all the other favourites now to upset me. Yeah.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including David Ornstein, Amy Lawrence and Rafa Honigstein. With the latest transfer news and insight on every Premier League story that matters, theathletic.com puts you inside football, and you can try it free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.